Everybody, welcome back to a North Texas Weather Center forecast. And today, what we're going over is that potential for two different severe weather outbreaks. Later this week, we'll have one, potentially another one early next week. So, we're going to break down everything that you know in this forecast on what to expect in terms of what modes of severe weather, the setup, and everything you need to know in this forecast. Let's get right into what's going on right now, though. Obviously, many of you know a very strong cold front came through North Texas earlier today and has brought a lot of rain really all across the southern plains, and really DFW even saw as high as 6 inches of rain in some spots. So this was a very beneficial system for those in the drought area across Texas and really anywhere in the southern plains. And you can see that these storms are still blowing up in southern Texas as of right now, this afternoon and evening. So obviously some storms still ongoing. Not really much of a severe weather threat with any of these storms, but definitely beneficial rain across the board for anybody who has not seen rain recently. But I thought that would be pretty interesting to show you right off the bat. All right, we do have a chance for severe weather. As I said before, we have one on Friday. There's already a slight risk issued by the Storm Prediction Center for the potential for all modes of severe weather, which would include damaging winds up to potentially 80 miles per hour. Also, large to very large hail and a few tornadoes, maybe even several could be possible. But there's still some uncertainty of how many storms we'll see in terms of, that'll be basically the big determination. Will we see, a bunch of storms, maybe a 40-50% coverage, or we'll only see like 10 to 20% coverage? That's the big question mark we still have, because we don't know how strong the cap is going to be. So that's going to be something to really monitor here over the next several days. As of right now, though, there's a slight risk, again, including anywhere from southern Nebraska all the way up into North Texas. So a lot of areas to watch in this severe weather potential. I think the worst will be in portions of Oklahoma. So that's kind of something to keep in mind. We'll get more on that in just a second. All right, over the next several days, we'll start to see those southerly wind return. The cold front was not strong enough to keep those winds coming out of the north for that long. Obviously, we're kind of in the beginning to middle of portions of the spring time. So we're not going to really see southerly winds, go away for that long. We'll see them pretty often, at least during the summertime as well. All right, you can see the dew points are going to increase over the next several days. By late Friday, you can see dew points well into the 60s across the southern plains, including Oklahoma, and as well as North Texas and as well as Kansas. Those areas, again, are under the gun for the potential for some severe storms on Friday. They will stay pretty high throughout most of the weekend. You can see we'll actually get into the low 70s possibly in portions of North Texas on Sunday. Eventually going to Monday and Tuesday, more chances for severe weather may exist. So again, dew points rising back up into the upper 60s and low 70s there. Oklahoma as well into the 60s for many of those as well. All right, let's take a look at the instability. Again, we're going to have that chance for severe weather on several occasions. This is on Friday. Look at these values in terms of instability. We're talking anywhere from 3 to potentially 3,500 joules per kilogram across not just Oklahoma, but as well as North Texas and Kansas. This is why we have that chance for already a slight risk of severe weather. We have so much instability. We have the dew points. We have plenty of low-level jet and as well as a lot of shear that will be able to fuel that potential for severe storms again. So a lot of things to keep in mind here. And I mean, these values are pretty high, and I'm talking, this is pretty normal for this time of the year. So we're not really, this is not uncommon by any means, but it's definitely something that we see a lot more often during late April and as well as early to mid-May. So just kind of keep that in mind. This happens a lot more often now than never. All right, going through the weekend, we'll start to see that instability kind of go away, but eventually by Monday, we're talking values as high as 4,000. So that's why I'm saying there might be a chance for two different events of severe weather. Now, honestly, the difference between 3,000 to 4,000 is possibly the difference between a major severe weather outbreak and only seeing just a few severe storms. But really when it comes to this, is the instability is more of a determination how many storms we'll see and what the likelihood of seeing thunderstorms is. So if there was to be a storm or any rain or precipitation that formed in that area of 4,000 joules per kilogram, we could very well see a very likely chance of a storm forming there in comparison to just being a light shower. So just kind of keep that in mind in terms of the instability. All right, taking a look at the lapse rates. Now, this is going to be for Friday. I'll show you Friday as well as Monday and Tuesday of next week. But the values in terms of lapse rates, lapse rates help us determine how large hailstones could get. So, I mean, are we talking, hen egg size, or what's the cap basically in terms of how large hailstones could get? And also, what is the likelihood of seeing hail? Now, you can see lapse rates heading into Friday. They are as high as 9 degrees Celsius per kilometer. So that means we're having very steep increases as we go up in the atmosphere. So if we're kind of look at a temperature table, for example, I'll just go ahead and show you a sounding here real quick. Give you an idea of what we're looking at. We're looking at a very steep increase in terms of temperatures as we go up in the atmosphere, which basically helps us determine, are we going to see, hail? Now, the higher a lapse rate is, so let's say it's 9 degrees Celsius per kilometer, that means there's a pretty good chance there could be some hail in some of these storms. Now, if it's like 6 degrees Celsius per kilometer, we're really not looking at much of a hail threat. That's just because it's not really a steep lapse rate. Again, it really has to be a pretty high lapse rate, like 8 to 9 degrees Celsius per kilometer. All right, going back into the lapse rates going into the weekend, they'll be fairly low, so not much of a hail threat through the weekend. But going back into Monday, we're not really looking at much of the hail threat. It looks like early next week. But again, there could be a possibility for a tornado threat sometime early next week. So that's just something to keep in mind again for next week. Let's go ahead and take a look at the low-level jet as well. This is for particularly on Friday. Once we have the jet stream kind of drop down just a little bit, we can kind of get a general picture here. Look at where this red is. That red is representing 50 to 55 knots of wind in the low-level jet, which basically means these supercells that develop will be rotating. So that's something we have to watch out very closely for. That red area is going to have most likely the best chance for a tornado threat. So again, that includes far southern Kansas, as well as going to central and central eastern Oklahoma, and eventually into portions of North Texas. That low-level jet is the strongest. Now, it's not really strong in DFW, the DFW Metroplex. It's strong enough maybe for a tornado or two, but it's not really strong to the point where we'll see several tornadoes, at least in the DFW Metroplex. All right, going to early next week as well. Low-level jet will increase, it looks like, heading into Monday, but I don't expect a whole lot of a tornado threat next week. Might have more of a damaging wind threat. So let's go and take a look at the future radar in terms of what to expect next week. So again, Thursday, chance for some thunderstorms, scattered thunderstorms across eastern Oklahoma. This would not be much of a severe weather event, maybe a marginal risk if anything. So nothing too crazy, at least for then. Friday will be our chance for some storms to develop. Now, again, the big question mark, how widespread will these storms be? Will we have a cap? And those are the big questions that we're kind of trying to identify. How can we determine that? Well, at this point, what the computer models are showing is not really any widespread action. So you can see this is Friday afternoon. Only a few storms developing right along that cold front. So, I mean, again, we're not really looking at a huge amount of coverage out of these storms. A couple up here in southern Kansas and northern Oklahoma. And again, any storms that develop will likely become severe very fast. So you can see, again, that's the areas that we're watching very closely for. Southern Kansas and northern Oklahoma, those storms may develop. Even a few storms might develop closer to areas like Wichita Falls. So, you know, it's a wide area as of right now in terms of where the severe weather is possible. There will likely be some changes. There might even be an increase in that probability for severe weather, especially for Oklahoma. But at this point, nothing too widespread is forecasted yet for Friday, but that could very well change, at least on the computer models. Going into the weekend, we should stay fairly dry, at least until Sunday. Late Sunday night, we might see an area of storms develop in Oklahoma. That might drop down, as you can kind of see on the imagery here. So eventually going to Monday, might have a few chances for storms, at least late Sunday and then Monday, but a little bit too early to get too specific on that. Eventually drying out, looks like, for a good portion of the early to mid portions of next week. By late Wednesday, maybe another area of storms developing, but it looks like severe weather overall for this time of the year, it's not extremely high, but it's definitely starting to get to the point where we're getting to the peak of the season, which is usually the worst chance for tornadoes seems to always be, you know, mid-May, so right around the 19th to 26th, actually the highest probability for tornadoes. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. All right, make sure to stay updated with North Texas Weather Center for the latest. Obviously, this is a very informative forecast. We do a lot of these both on our Facebook page at North Texas Weather Center, as well as our YouTube page here. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure to check out our sponsors as well. Platinum Contracting, best roofing company here in North Texas. All Dents Repair. If you need a hail repair for your car, make sure to check him out. Jimmy, he's a great guy there. And as well as Birdie's Pro Turf. Any landscaping needs, make sure to check out Mitch at Birdie's Pro Turf.